From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin energy.
The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, it's a winning formula on social media, but is being known for throwing around NIL weights really the best reputation to have? Baseball sweeps its season opening series. We discuss the likely blueprint in 2025, and softball surges down in Clearwater. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Shake it, take it, sip the juice. Workout Plus going down the gullet today, everybody. Half shot, sour apple flavor, delicious. But it's also going to deliver all the caffeine I need to get through my workouts, plus the nutrients to enhance my workouts, all again in one little shot you can take anywhere with you. Leave it in the car, put it in the gym bag, maybe leave it in your locker. Are you one of those guys, Corey, do you ever go in the locker room where there are people that keep their locks on their lockers throughout the entire week at your gym?
Well, I go to multiple gyms, Aslan, because I'm that guy. I assume, but I don't notice that. I notice I'm always surprised when one is locked, but I don't know if they keep the same locker all the time.
Some
I
people
do
do
not.
that. Yeah.
I hope they steal my shoes.
My gym every now and then puts like a sign that like at midnight we're cutting off all the locks. You're not supposed to be able to leave it overnight, but then some people get the good ones and just take advantage of it. But just make sure you store your vitamin energy somewhere safe, unless you're feeling really giving, and just start tossing it out there. All the people in the gym, let them have a better day at the gym as well.
Smart.
People helping people. That's what we do. VitaminEnergy.com. Clinically tested, clinically proven. Give it a shot, everybody. Warchant.com. Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. Thumbs up, 5-star rating, review, subscribe. One or the other, all 2 out of the 3, all 3, anything. We prefer it. We like it. Please be nice to us. Corey Clark in the house, everybody. Senior writer for Warchant.com. How's your weekend been, Corey Clark?
It was good, man. It was good. I got to see some baseball. Got to see, a basketball game. That wasn't all that exciting, but at least I was there. I got to enjoy the beautiful city of Tallahassee. So, it was a good weekend, man. It was other than a really bad storm that rolled through overnight, it was good weather.
Yeah, what was that? That was crazy, man. Just popped up out of nowhere. But
yeah, I slept through it, but I woke up to a wet driveway. It's like, what is this? And then apparently it was a pretty bad squall line. It didn't wake me and Stephanie up, though.
There we go. Well, you know what, man? I did not sleep well at all this weekend, Corey.
Oh.
After reading the story from our Pete Nakos of the On3 Network, headline, NIL Collectives staffers share top spenders, highest paid transfers, and more. The highest paid transfer apparently from all these people is, they said, Carson Beck. If you believe everything that's been published, it's clearly Carson Beck. Darian Mensah, the Tulane quarterback who ended up at Duke, $3.5 to $4 million, the figure they're throwing out there.
Good for Duke. Good for Duke to care.
Are they really doing that, though? I mean, it's got to be like some sort of annuity or like stock purchase thing or something. There's no way to give him like cash.
He gets like 5% of Cooper Flag.
Yeah.
Whatever Cooper Flag makes next year or something. Yeah, that seems I don't know what Cooper Flag got paid, but he didn't get that, I wouldn't think.
Oh.
So, yeah, that's a lot of money for Duke to spend on a football player, if that's the truth. So, yeah, again, however they're doing it, good for them.
Yeah. But what kind of made me feel a little trepidation was, and I thought Pete did a story like a week or two ago, and I was really happy that Florida State's name was not mentioned at all in any of this sort of stuff. But the question that he asked he had 3 different sources from SEC collectives, someone from a Big 12 staff, someone from an NIL collective on the ACC side of things, and a staffer on an SEC program. So lots of differing voices, 3 of your power conferences, if you will. And when asked who spent the most money on their transfer portal classes, 2 different SEC contacts, I think both with collectives, and a Big 12 staffer, both listed Florida State, which I guess
3. So three people.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 different conferences. So I guess the alternative is Aslan. So like what? You don't want Florida State to spend money. And I don't know if you can spend money, but spend it quietly. I don't like popping up on these lists because I don't know so much about getting the egg on your face sort of thing. But, I don't know. You need to spend money, I guess, to get better players. I understand that. But there has to be a way that other teams we didn't hear about Arizona State spending a whole bunch of money last year or BYU or Indiana. But I guess Florida State is much closer on the spectrum to Oregon and Ohio State than they are BYU and Arizona State. So that's going to explain why.
Well, and also, who is Arizona State recruiting against? Who's
Right.
BYU recruiting against? They don't have to spend that kind of money to get players like that. Like they're not in on Pettis from Ole Miss. He's not thinking about BYU. So again, it's you have an ACC budget, although it's more for now anyway. It's close to an SEC budget. But you're not recruiting against the other ACC teams except for Clemson, right? And Miami occasionally. You're recruiting against the SEC. And if you want an SEC-type roster, you got to spend like an SEC school. And when you say that Florida State spent more than everybody else, or they say they spent, it's by degrees, right? It's not like Florida State spent $40 million and Ole Miss spent $9 million. No. I mean, it's also guessing. Like, they don't know the budgets of every other school in the conference. I'm sure they lost a couple of recruits to Florida State, and we're like, golly, well, we made them a really good offer, a strong-ass offer, in the words of Will Wade. And,
future Florida State basketball
Florida State coach. So they, the Florida State has to maybe overpay a little bit because of who they're recruiting against and the region of the country they recruit. But I don't think it wasn't like the New York Yankees compared to the Tampa Bay Rays. Right. You know what I mean? I think they're all about in the same ballpark. As far, you know what I mean? Like anybody in the SEC, Florida State, Clemson, Miami, I guess, are all spending about the same, I would think. It's just how you spend it, right? Yeah. That's the question of how they spend it and what kind of return they get.
Right, and you want to be seen as the 2023 Florida State team that spent in the portal wisely. You don't want to be seen as the 2024 team that spent however they did. Because, one of the lines is delivered from one of the SEC contacts as, ... And then the normal suspects with Florida State, Miami, and teams in the SEC. They said Texas Tech came in heavy, and then they said the normal. And then, normal suspects to me is almost like, all right, so like we have a reputation that we're going to perhaps overspend on maybe players that don't quite, overspending, could it be that they don't deserve it, period? Or you're still ending up spending a lot of money for a player that, you probably could have got them for a least a lesser figure.
I guess, but what do we care? Like if Florida State has the money, spend it. What are you going to save it for? If somebody's willing to give the Battles Inn enough money to go get an offensive tackle, all right, good. I mean, as long as you have those people in place, like what you would rather spend like more. It's not like there's some salary cap you have to stay under, at least for now.
I don't want to be the Yanks, though, man. I don't want to be the Yankees, man.
Do you want to be the Dodgers? Because heaven forbid. They run the universe now. Yeah. They have every good player in the major leagues is on the Dodgers, apparently. They have the next 5 MVPs or last 5 MVPs on their team. Like they do all right.
I say this as a Lakers fan too, by the way. So there's probably a lot of
Pipe. What are y'all going to give Luka? The franchise when he comes up for free agency? Like you got to. There's these teams stay relevant and win a lot of games for a reason in the major leagues. And the Yankees, you can laugh at them, but I mean the Red Sox spent a ton of money back in the 2010s, and they won 4 World Series, 3 World Series. So. The spending money on the right players works. Right. The Dodgers just proved it. So let's hope they're. Again,
you can still overpay, Shohei, but Shohei's still awesome though. So you really technically, I guess, can't. My fear is the second part of this rant of mine here is that one of the other questions on this sort of survey, Corey, was what was the hardest position to retain on your roster, and then a Big 12 staffer said offensive line. It doesn't matter if you're good or not. If you play, somebody will pay you. Last year was $250,000 for one. This year with revenue sharing and NIL was a minimum of $400,000 up to $750,000 and even $1 million for some guys.
Yeah.
And then I guess maybe this is where I should be a little bit heartened by the fact that I think Herb Hand probably has been in more trenches, has been in more foxholes, has been in more darkened rooms watching film than Alex Atkins. And this is not a shot at Alex Atkins. I don't know how many people really have been in as many sort of situations evaluating different talent, different conferences as Herb Hand. But I instantly got to where you start thinking about it doesn't matter if you're good or not. If you play, somebody will pay you. Listen, they've got a lot of experienced guys they've got from the portal that play offensive line. And other than I think Pettibon, I don't think any of them graded out particularly high, but they played a lot on some pretty good teams. Vanderbilt was pretty good last year. Ole Miss, got snubbed. JK, they did not. They did not deserve to get in the playoff, everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
But,
that was the worst snub in college football playoff history, I thought, what up in Ole Miss last year.
And listen, Lane is not infallible, but, Lane Kiffin let Micah Pettis walk, and there was a dollar figure out there for Micah Pettis to go to Texas Tech, and you're like, golly, like if we beat him, if we got him, like we must have been paying in that sort of ballpark. But I just don't know. If you are Herb Hand, do you arrive here and do you not have the luxury of being persnickety and particular about who you want to get? Or let's be honest, you arrive and you're Herb Hand, you look at what you have in the cupboard here, and it's just like, all right, well, we have the money to spend. F it. I need guys. Like, let's give it a shot.
I think equate it to Willie's first year, 18. Like they couldn't run an offense. Or heck, last year. The offensive line was so bad they couldn't run an offense. So I think when Herb Hand comes in, he's like, look, I just want guys that I know are competent. I don't need superstars. I don't need NFL guys. I need guys that are good, that are just college football players. Okay, well, we got you a 3-year starter out of the SEC. We got you a 3-year starter out of Wake. We got you a 2-year starter that you coached. And then we got you another 2-year starter that's a left tackle. Plus, Richie Leonard's coming back, who's started for multiple seasons. So he knows he's got a foundation of just solid. And that might be all it is solid. But that's so much better than coming in and being like, well, let me see if Abdul Bello can play. I always take a shot at you, Abdul. I'm sorry. Jawan Williams. Let me see if Jawan Williams can play. Or this guy or that guy. Brady Scott. I'll throw him in the mix. Like, there were guys on the Florida State roster that just weren't good enough back when Willie took over. And they had no recourse to fix it back then, and all the way back in 2018. But now you do. So he comes in. He's like, yeah, that's a question mark. That position's a question mark. They're all question marks. Let me go get some guys that aren't question marks. They're not exclamation points, apparently. I don't know if Gunnar Hansen's great or even good. I don't know
PFF would tell you he's not. But again,
Pettibone, don't know. Serviceable. But and I think Herb Hand, you also have to believe in the guy that's doing it. Yeah. Like, you have to believe that he's going to figure out a way when you give him these kind of groceries that it's like, again, he's not shopping at what's a fancy grocery store? Harris Teeter? Is that a grocery store?
Oh, it is. Yeah. ACC footprint, baby.
He might not be shopping at Harris Teeter, but he's not shopping at Big Star either. That's an old school one. Piggly Wiggly.
Piggly Wiggly, yeah.
Yeah, he's shopping at Publix. Pretty good. Kroger. Pretty good. And I feel like if you give him pretty good groceries, he's going to have a decent meal. It's not going to be incredible. It's not going to be a Michelin 3-star restaurant, but it'll be good enough to make this offense appreciably better. But sometimes you got to go to overspend, especially on the offensive line, right? To go overspend to make sure you're competent on the offensive line, because we've seen in both 2018 and then, to our horror, in 2024, what an incompetent offensive line looks like. You can't do anything.
If you don't have an offensive line, you don't have an offense.
You can't. You can't function. No. So at least now, I feel like with the combination of Herb Hand and those 5 linemen I just mentioned, all that are probably at least 22, 23 years old, and all have combined for over 100 starts, there's a foundation there of at least solid competence.
I know, but I feel like we have to lean more on Herb Hand, because the second part of that applied to last year's offensive line. So, like, not to put too much pressure on your Herb Hand, but it really comes down to you got to pick the horses. Like, you've got to pick the winners. Yeah, like, it really comes down to him.
Yeah, and let's hope. But again, I think he hopefully the hope is with the scheme and the way he teaches or coaches, it can't be that bad. The combination of the scheme and the way he coaches, even if the guys are just average offensive linemen, which they all might be. That's still an average offensive line is a leap up from what they had last year. I just think Herb Hand's track record, and then look, man, Maurice Smith, Darius Washington, Jeremiah Byers, none of them got better. No. You're hoping maybe the guys that are on the current roster, not even just the transfer guys, the backups, the guys that have been here for a couple of years, the dudes that were recruited to Florida State, can actually get better, and maybe they see the field. Maybe there's some real competition to get on the field. There just wasn't. Look, man, for 4 years, you knew it was Darius Washington was in the mix, Maurice Smith. Who was the other guy that was here forever?
We kept changing guards.
Robert Scott was around forever. Yeah. Like, they just had guys that were that were here forever that were not going to be unseated. And Herb Hand, I think, will find a right 5 combination probably with these transfers, but we don't know for sure, that are grown-up, mature football players, and they will be serviceable. And if you can have a serviceable offensive line with that scheme in a mobile quarterback that can avoid pressure, you're going to take a big leap. But I get it. It's like, if you're going to spend that much money, give me the Michigan offensive line. Or I don't even know if they were any good last year. You know what I'm saying? Like, give me one of these great offensive lines that are Wisconsin, Notre Dame. Go get me those guys. Well, those guys don't typically leave. You don't see a lot of Michigan starting offensive linemen that bounce. And if they do, you had so many holes to fill. You can't go get yourself an All-American left tackle. I mean, you could go get him for $3.5 million or whatever he would cost, but you need to spend money smarter than that. So go get a solid offensive line and go get some special elsewhere.
I think Gus's presence factors into this as well, because you assume Gus gives him a little breathing, gives Herb a little bit breathing room in terms of caliber of athlete he needs to have at offensive line because of his scheme and obviously what Castellanos is going to be, because they move quickly on. You know, he's the centerpiece, man. He is the fulcrum. He is everything for this offense going this year, but he's going to need an offensive line to help him most of the times, but he's going to be able to make some things happen. What is Florida State's record last year if they had Tommy? Because clearly they built something around DJ that was not anywhere near as structurally intact as one would hope. So, I mean, I don't know what the plans are for what they think they're going to be building around Tommy now, but like, surely it's going to be in a better place than they had last year. But like, what would Tommy have done for last year's team, do we think?
I don't know, because I don't know if it was structured the right way. I think so, but I mean, a couple more wins probably. Probably beat Boston College.
Beat Duke.
But I think, absolutely Duke. So you're up to 4. You've just doubled your win total. That might be it. I don't know. I'm trying to think of any off the top of my head that they had a chance.
They played terrible against Carolina, but maybe you're fighting a little bit better in that game. I mean, Carolina was terrible last year.
Yeah, they weren't very good, and that defense wasn't very good. But it didn't matter because Florida State's offense was a train wreck. But I do think when you look at what they've done, they've done a smarter job. Again, we're speaking here in the middle of February, so I don't know what it'll actually look like in 7 months. But I feel like they've done a smarter job of building around the quarterback they brought in. Like they thought erroneously that they would be able to protect and they'd be able to run the ball. And DJU and that offense is fine. Play action, take shots. Never going to be an 80% completion guy. Not a huge runner of the ball, but can grind out first downs if it's 3rd and 2. I think he was banged up in August. Wasn't a running factor at all. And they also didn't have a good team around him to highlight his strengths. Putting him behind an offensive line that couldn't block was
malpractice.
But you saw what the result was. It was unwinnable. So I think that they've done a good job of not only giving serviceable guys. They're not going to be turnstiles. You don't play in the SEC for 3 years. You don't become a captain. I don't care what PFF says. You don't become a captain and start that many games if you're a turnstile. They're going to be an average to decent offensive line. Probably, just because of the experience and what they've done. But also, they're not going to be turnstiles, so they'll give the guy a chance to see his first or second read. They'll also be able to push guys enough out of the way that Castellanos can take advantage. I just think that – and they've also given Tommy C. some big weapons to throw to. Like big, I mean literal big. No. So he doesn't have he isn't the most accurate passer. He isn't a great thrower of the football. But when you're throwing to 6'6" and 6'4" all over the field, you don't have to be a great thrower. Just be pretty good. Get it near him. And I think they've done a good job of getting him experienced weapons to get the ball out to go along with a veteran offensive line. I think the offense is going to take a big leap. We know that. We'll be talking about that for the next 7 months. Obviously, in the next month when they start spring practice, we'll be talking about it more. But I worry about the running game other than Tommy C. And then you're going to have to do it all again next year. That's the problem with building offenses like this. Like you might have an entire starting 5 of redshirt seniors up front, which is great. All 23. They're probably older than like the Ravens offensive line. It's a really old, mature offensive line. That should be great. That should bode well. You should not get embarrassed and humiliated because they have some pride. They have something to them, and they want to finish out they're big dudes. But what do you do next year? At some point, you got to start using your own guys. You've got to develop, you've got to evaluate, develop, recruit, and have somebody in place so when Richie Leonard leaves, it's not like going, and I'm not saying Richie Leonard is Jared Verse, but you're not going from Jared Verse to Byron Turner. You've got to have better players behind these. You've got to build the depth, man. Build the depth with your own guys. If you want to start 5 mercenaries that came in for 1 year, that's fine. That's probably what you need after that disaster of 2024. But build something so then then next year you've coached a guy for 2 years now and he'll give you something. And he's an actual Florida State kid that was recruited by Florida State that's been developed, and he can come in seamlessly, and you don't have to go quote unquote overspend to go get a marginally decent SEC offensive lineman. You got your own guys you can use.
Speaking of the bigger weapons that he's going to be throwing to, tomorrow we will get Tayshawn Gelsey, who's a big, rangy tight end. Mario Nash was an offensive lineman. Kevin Sperry, quarterback. And then Jordan Scott.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
JUCO wideout, that's 6'7". Hopefully Johnny Wilson 2.0. That was another position. That was something else that fleshed down that story from NACOS about hardest position to add. A lot of people said receivers. A lot of people said it's really hard. It was really hard to get receivers. Receivers, 7 figures now.
Well, that's good that you got 2 of them. 2 guys that are pretty good. And now, again, same directive here to the coaching staff. It's awesome. You went and got 2 guys that are contribute immediately and will start. It would be nice that if some of the guys you've recruited over the last 2 years, 1 or 2 or 4 of them become players, and you actually use them and they come up through the system.
Come up, everybody, to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill for trivia on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Compete against the best and the brightest in Tallahassee. Unless Corey Clark's not there, then you're not getting the best and the – well, technically you're not in Tallahassee if you're not the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill on trivia night, so you can still be competing against the best and brightest in Tallahassee. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill's got you covered all week long with great things going on throughout the week, daily lunch specials, weekday happy hour, 4 to 7 p.m., and then all day Sunday. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So are their wings, best in town. Do they do wing battle competitions anymore? I'll back Bill in the Corner Pocket if they need to get everything in order. I think they can compete.
I don't remember them having a wing battle. I will say this: on Saturday night they had a big dart tournament. Ooh, so if you're into darts and you want to go sign up, I think they do it occasionally, but go sign up for the big Corner Pocket darts tournament. Unfortunately, Buy Steph a Drink, which is our trivia team, which won last week, by the way, which we don't win a lot, so I have to brag. But we won't be there this week. I'll actually be in Biloxi, Mississippi. So we won't be able to.
You're home away from
title.
home.
Or my home away from home. I'll be in Biloxi, so won't be able to defend our title. But still, that means you have a better chance of winning if you show up for trivia on Tuesday night.
2475 Appalachia Parkway, cptallybar.com, the website. We're back. It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Shake it and take it. Sounds like Link and the boys, they shook James Madison and took the series sweep to start the season off for Florida State. Jamie Arnold looking every bit of Mr. Friday night in the opener, 6-0 win for Florida State on Friday night, 9-2 victory Saturday, and then they capped it off with a 10-0 shellacking of the Dukes. Wes Mendes, the starting pitcher on the bump Sunday. Joey Vellini got the start on Saturday for Florida State transfer. So the starting pitchers right now, as it sits, Corey, just a bunch of lefties, man. Just a bunch of solid lefties, which is putting it very mildly because Jamie Arnold was his usual swaggering self. 6 innings pitch, only allowed 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 8 strikeouts, 8 punch-outs, and 75 pitches. Good little start to the season for Jamie.
Well, for all of them. They played they run-ruled them on Sunday, so they pitched 26 innings as a staff and gave up 1 earned run. Look, we know what Jamie Arnold is. The question is what they have behind him on the starting rotation and the bullpen. Yeah, man, I liked is it Vellini, the kid that pitched Saturday?
Yep.
He went 4 2/3. I feel like there was an error. There was something there was an error that cost them the chance to go 5 and get the win. Not that anybody cares about wins anymore. And then Mendez went 5 on Sunday and got the win. And they were they dominated. They don't dominate with 98. But, James Madison had 10 hits on the weekend. They had more errors than hits, which is not a great sign for James Madison. They need to clean that up. They were god awful in the field. But man, that's because we know what this team isn't. This team is not James Tibbs and Cam Smith and Dingus and Ferrer. They're not those guys. They're not going to hit like that. Forget the fact that they scored 19 runs the last 2 games. That's not how they're going to win most games in the ACC. That's just not what they're going to be. They've got to win with pitching and defense and base running. And I was really impressed with what they did on the bases, the little things that maybe they weren't incredible at last year, like base running, but they have to be this year, and I think they will be. But the pitching is what's going to drive them as far as they go, and that is at least for a weekend, that was absolutely what you wanted to see. They were lights out from the first guy to the last guy. They pitched really, really well, and that was really encouraging, man. Like you got what you got on Friday night. John Abraham looked great coming in relief of Arnold too.
Yeah, man. But
everybody else did too. Like they all pitched well. And I know James Madison isn't Virginia or North Carolina or Clemson, but it's a team that made a regional final last year. They didn't get screwed. They gave up a walk-off home run in one of those games, their opener of the regional, and then fought all the way back to play NC State, and I think they lost like 5-3 in the region championship game. Like that's a legit program.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize they got in as an at-large last year, which is even crazy for that. So the
I
point
think
being,
Link said they returned most of their starting pitching. They did lose a lot of their bats, but they returned a lot of their pitching, and Florida State roughed them up. So.
But they're not a pushover by any means. That's a decent program. So to look like that, especially on the mound, they overwhelmed them. The James Madison bats were just completely overwhelmed, which is kind of how it should be in the middle of February. But that's the key because this team isn't going to win a lot of 8-5s or 11-7 games. They're going to have to win a lot of 4-1 games. Or honestly, like the Friday night game. I think the Friday night game. Farrow hit the 3-run homer, and that was basically it the whole game until James Madison fell apart in the 8th inning. And I think the final was 6-0.
Yep.
But that's it, man. That's how you hope to get a big hit or two, and then you hope your pitching keeps them from scoring. And that was a really good sign. I can't imagine Link has to be ecstatic with the way his guys threw.
Yeah.
They threw strikes too, Aslan.
No.
They threw strikes. I think the starting guys, Arnold and Bellini and Mendez, went a combined, basically 16 innings, struck out, let's say, 25, and walked 2. Man, that's what I'm talking about. Make them put the ball in play, attack the zone, and that's what the whole pitching staff did. They just overwhelmed that team.
Yeah. The thing to look on or to keep a look for on this team, what Link told us in the preseason leading up to this was, will they have that middle of the lineup extra base hit that's going to really kind of blow things open? And I don't know if Farrow really counts as that because, Farrow was kind of bad. He was kind of, middle-ish of your lineup or whatever, but he's the guy that delivers a 3-run homer, first one of the season for the team on Friday. And then Saturday, Harrelson homers, Gage Harrelson from Texas Tech, he's a nice little piece as a leadoff hitter, man.
I like him.
Like
That's
that kid
addition.
a lot.
Yeah.
Max Williams homers, Farrow homers. Farrow had a double in that game. Lodi's homered on Saturday as well in that 9-2 victory. And then on Sunday, man, it was just base knocks. Like it was just getting guys on base. Harrelson, Lodi's, Jackson West got
the freshman first baseman. Bailey had 3 hits, which was good to see because he struggled in that opener, which is to be expected. Not everybody comes in and is J.D. Drew. You're going to struggle a lot as a freshman. You're facing pitching consistently that you've never really seen before. But I love the way he answered. I think he was because he had a strikeout on Saturday too. So I think his first 5 at-bats, he was 0 for 4. He was 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts, or maybe 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. But then he came back on Sunday, had a double, and had 2 really nice hits against left-handed pitching, and spit on some pitches that he swung at on Friday. And look, if he's going to be the piece that they want him to be and need him to be, you've got to show that you can adjust. Obviously in the middle of a game, in the middle of a season, you've got to adjust to how they're going to pitch to you. When you see a big kid that big in the plate, you're not going to try to challenge him with fastballs a lot. It just doesn't happen, whether they have a scouting report on him or not. And he did a much better job on Sunday against lefties. One lefty was pretty darn good, and he hung in there and shot a little change up to left field. Wasn't a great swing, wasn't a great hit, but he put the ball in play, and he made a step. He showed a really nice adjustment there from one game to the next. But they got, Noah Sheffield had a hit in his first at bat. Chase Williams played and got a couple hits. They got some new guys that are intriguing. in the lineup. It's just when you look at it in the totality, and I'm not trying to put the whole season into a microcosm of one weekend, they are not the offense they were last year.
No,
of
clearly.
course not.
No.
Of course not. Like last year, Max Williams was their 5th best hitter. Now he's the 3-hole hitter. Like it wasn't. There's no compare. It was one of the best offenses in school history, maybe the best offense in school history, stats wise. So you're not going to be that. But if you can manufacture some runs, and I like what they have because they have some speed. Harrelson's a nice piece at the top of the lineup. They have some speed. If you can manufacture runs, occasionally get some bombs, and then pitch really well, if that's your strength is pitching and defense, that can take you a long way. You're just going to need 2 or 3 other bats to really kind of cement themselves in the lineup. Because right now I think it's a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah, Cal Fisher, I think he batted 4 the entire weekend. He had I think he had 3 hits on the weekend, so that was kind of good to see. He's a guy that pretty much, I think Link recruited him at Notre Dame, but then Cal followed him down here to Tallahassee. So, and he was kind of battling for playing time last year, but again, the team was so awesome last year, it was really hard to. And then shout out to Hunter Carnes, the freshman preseason All-American candidate. I think he started on Saturday. Had a base knock, drove in 2 runs. No, he did not. He had a base knock, though. He got walked twice. I'm sorry, I can't read the stats properly, but they got freaking options at catcher. So that's the one thing that, to your point, Corey, I think. Listen, it's this non-conference sort of slate, getting your kind of feet settled in. Then you're going to hit your conference slate, and there'll be a point probably where they'll lose a series or 2, and we'll feel. But I think by the time this team hits April, May, we're going to have a really good feel for. They're going to have a solid lineup. I mean, again, not last year's team, but to your point, some of that will be able to get on base, manufacture runs, be aggressive on the base paths, and the pitching is going to be something that's going to carry them throughout the year. It feels like really good weekend.
And I like the defense. Cal Fisher played third, which I figured he would when the season started. Because like you said, Link likes him a lot, but he's already got his middle infield. And Fisher looked good at third. Lodis was just excellent as always at shortstop. That's a nice anchor to have. And man, that's the recipe. That's the blueprint. But yeah, man, you remember last year, they played an exciting series at Clemson, but they blew a 7-run lead in 1 inning, and then the next game they had a 9-run lead in the 5th or 6th and lost that one too. Like I don't want to jinx it. Number one, I don't foresee them getting up by like 9 or 10 runs against Clemson. But if they do, man, I just think they have such a deeper bullpen, in a lot, just a depth of talent in a lot of arms that they can go to get 3 outs or 6 outs. And guys that have pitched before, like Abraham, he had an up and down season last year, but but he pitched in Omaha, right?
Yeah.
Like he pitched in supers. Like they've been there. And I think there's something to be said for guys that aren't going to be overwhelmed by the moment. And on the mound, none of them should be. So that's encouraging. And again, that's where you're going to win a lot of games if you can pitch. You're going to win most of them if you can pitch like they pitched this weekend. Again, the offense, we'll see where it goes. But I like the Harrelson piece, like I said. And Fisher, I don't know what his stats were, maybe 2 or 3 hits, but he squared a ball up a lot. He flew out to the track a couple times. Last year he had some moments, but I feel like he struck out every other bat. I don't remember him striking out at all this weekend. If he did, it was once. That's good to see, too, because when that kid puts the ball in play, he hits it hard. It's a nice piece. Again, not Cam Smith, not yet. Harrelson's not James Tibbs, but collectively,
in the aggregate, Corey, in the aggregate.
If they can make it up in the aggregate with speed. Yeah. And look, man, I really like the way they ran the bases. And I know we've already talked too much about a James Madison baseball series, but they were very aggressive on the bases. Even that catcher from Dartmouth that started 2 of the 3 games. The
Semelia, I gotta look at the pronouncer on his last name.
It's like Shamelia, I think, is what it sounded like. That's what it sounded like Aria and Lulu were saying. He runs the bases well for not a real fast kid. Like, he's aggressive. Yeah. Ball's in the dirt, I'm going. Like, he tries, man. He's reading the ball and taking extra bases. When you lose 100 home runs off a team, you got to find other ways to make that up. And being aggressive and good on the bases is a way to do it. And just pick it up and pitch. And they definitely can do that.
What's good about the softball team is apparently they're able to do both things, Corey. They're able to pitch really well, and they're hitting the cover off of it. Really great weekend as we sit here and record the show for you for Lonnie and the softball program. They're going to be playing UCF on Sunday night after we get done recording this. But took number 16 Missouri to the woodshed, run ruled them in 5, 9-1. Blew right past Ohio State 9-1. I think scored, 14 unanswered against Wichita State to mercy rule them in 6 innings, 15-5. So 18-15 was that 33-8. They outscored the teams in the 3 games they played out there at the Shriners Invitational down there in Clearwater. They're now 7-1 on the season again, pending the result against UCF. Nice turn of events, if you will. I mean, no one was panicking after they lost that opener down in Mexico against Oklahoma State, but they've responded quite nicely as an understatement since then.
Yeah, with them, watching them, it's only been 8 games. Is that right? As we talk here today, they're 7-1. Well, Kennedy Harp has been the best player in the country. It's only 8 games, guys. I get it. But holy cow. She's been incredible. And they've added that to a lineup that already had Torres, Beecham, and Edenfield. And Kennedy Harp's playing like an All-American. We'll see if it keeps up. It's 8 games. But if she's this or anywhere close to this for the season, well, now you've added another unbelievable bat to your lineup. She hit a bunt, and if you look at her frame, she just doesn't – she's wiry. She's not like – she doesn't look necessarily jacked. I'm sure she's obviously very strong, but she's wiry and kind of lanky. And she had a ball on Saturday night when they were making their comeback against Wichita State that was like an Enfield home run.
She's 6 feet tall, you know that?
No, I know, but she's wiry.
I know,
but she does something with the whip of the bat and just produces a ton of power and pop, and obviously can run. She actually made a really bad play in center field that gave Wichita State a couple runs. Not really bad. It would have been a nice play, but it's one she needs to make. It hit off her glove. And then they dropped a pop-up in short center that gave Wichita State another couple of runs. So the defense wasn't great in that game. They're down 5-1 in the 5th. 5-1 they're down in the 5th. And then they run rule them an inning later. It just – the wheels, they come in waves. And they just don't stop. Batter after batter after batter is really good, and that's how it's going to be all year. And the reason I brought up the defense was it's not like the pitching was terrible. They didn't just give up. I mean, I think they probably counted as earned runs, but those 5 runs, Wichita State wasn't blistering the ball. And then they came in and they shut the door after that. After they got down 5 runs, I can't remember who came in and pitched. The transfer from Hofstra, I think, it did a nice job. But yeah, man, and Francic, I think, pitched some too. They got some arms.
Julia Apsel.
Apsel, right. And then, if the arms can keep them at bay, the offense is going to do that a lot. Can't count on them to score 15 every week. It's a goofy sport. Sometimes you get balls right at them or a pitcher's really good. But I like the fact that this offense is what we thought it was going to be. The pitching so far has been so. Remember the score? You were in Clearwater last year, right, Aslan?
Yeah.
Every game they were giving up 12 runs.
Yep.
Or 15 runs. It was crazy. They'd score 10 and get run ruled. And so seeing that difference on the mound, more arms to go to, that's a really good thing. I'd like to see McKenna Reed wasn't dominant at all when she pitched against Wichita State. Let's hope she can somehow find her form from 2 years ago now. But even still, they've got some arms to make up for that. And, that offense is just unbelievable.
Yeah. No rest for the weary. Florida State.
I say that, I'm going to go ahead and assume that UCF shut them out on 2 hits on Sunday night, since I just talked them up for 5 minutes.
Florida State back in action this coming week. Joanne Graff Classic in Tallahassee. They'll be hosting A&M, Florida A&M, FAM, some call them, Thursday, 3:30. Then a doubleheader against Southeastern Louisiana on Friday, and then a doubleheader against number 5 Texas A&M, Corey, 3 o'clock and then 5:30. So
this weekend in Tallahassee?
That is correct.
Oh, all right. That's cool. Nice.
Yeah. So, the Joanne Graff Classic brings everybody to town. And then another huge thing in development before we have to talk about the basketball team, unfortunately. But, hey, listen, man, it's all about figuring things out before the conference tournament, because that's the only way this team plays more basketball than they should. Shout out to the relay team for the women's track and field squad, Corey. They set a school record and ACC record in the 4x400 meter relay. Takia Ferguson, Tyra Wilson, Aaliyah Green, and Kalea Liburd ran it in 3 minutes, 30 seconds, even. They beat it by a whole second nearly. The 29-year-old record was 3.5 minutes and 0.59, set back in 1996.
Yeah, that's crazy to break a 28-year-old record. 29-year-old record is nuts.
Yeah, so that was a school record. I don't know what the ACC record was.
But they broke that too, right?
Yeah. They did both. So that's moving. So 4x400, so that's an actual mile then they ran? So they trained one lap?
They ran a mile with, they split up a quarter of a mile, yeah.
All right, there we go.
And don't forget, Mekhi Danzy now has the third fastest time in Florida State history. He moved up. He was fifth, and then this weekend he became the third fastest Florida State sprinter ever in the 400.
Some say climbing.
He is. Yes, he is climbing indeed.
All right, awesome. Not so awesome. Basketball's effort. Actually, I shouldn't say that because I didn't watch it, but seeing the final score, makes you make it connect the dot or two on that. 72-46 loss against Clemson. But Clemson's really good, man. They took out Duke last week, and they didn't have a hangover against North Carolina a few days after that, and then come down to Florida State and kind of handled business 72-46.
Yeah.
Thoughts, Corey?
It was gross. I told somebody after the game, if it hadn't already been announced that this was his last year, that game would have hammered home the point that this is untenable. Like, that was just they don't shoot. They can't shoot. It's the second game in a row they've been down by 18 in the second half. This time they had no fight back at all. They were down double digits, Aslan, for the last 32 minutes of the game. Double digits.
And that's what, 40, the game's 40 minutes long?
Yeah, they never got it to within – once it was 18-7, they never got it to within single digits again. That's embarrassing. It was one of the most embarrassing efforts of the Hamilton era, I thought. At least since I've been here, which has been a long darn time, because there was no fight. They never got it close. They never even came close to making it close. Clemson didn't even play well offensively, honestly. They didn't shoot well, not as well as they can shoot. Their best player, the kid that went off when they played him the first time, Chase Hunter, who averages like 18 a game, didn't make a shot. Had 3 points, and 2 of them were on a technical free throws on Malik Ewan.
Well, they executed the scouting plan really good.
Yeah, they didn't let him beat them, did they? They let everybody else beat them badly. So it's a home game like that where you just don't show up, you don't compete, and you can't shoot. You can't shoot. In 2025, you can't continue to shoot like this. I think they were 2 of 17 from 3. 2 of 16. That you just can't beat good teams when you can't make threes. You just can't, and they don't. So, and Clemson's good. Now Clemson's not that good, but Clemson's good. But Florida State was horrible. They do play Miami this week. All I care about to close out this season, like somebody saw me at baseball, is like, I hope you ripped him. I'm like, for what? He's gone. Like, they're playing out the string. There's 6 or 7 games left. All I hope is he gets to 200 ACC wins. He's at 198. The best chance he has to get a win the rest of the season, like the one that needs to be an automatic, is against Miami on Wednesday night at home. But when you lose by 26 to someone at home, nothing's a guarantee. Miami is obviously not anywhere close to Clemson. They don't play nearly as hard. But you can lose because you're Florida State. You lost to Boston College when you had a big lead. Like, you can lose to anyone. So, I just hope he gets to 200 ACC wins. And then we start talking more and more about the potential coaching candidates. That'll be the topic du jour, the topic du week, du month. Coming up is who's going to take over. I know Luke Laux was in attendance at the game because it's the All-Star break. He's one of the names that's been bandied about, but
Sam Cassell is some national
Sam
people.
Cassell, but we have no idea how far along those conversations are and what that would entail, what it would look like, what those contracts would look like. But I don't know if they go the Luke Laux Cassell route. I don't know if they go get a mid-major coach that's actually been a head coach at the college level, but I guess we'll all find out in about a month, I would assume.
If the season ended today, Florida State would be a 9 seed, so they'd actually get a first-round bye, and they would play Georgia Tech.
Okay.
But then winner of that gets Duke, though. So that's
His career is going to end in Charlotte after a couple of years.
What do people think about NC State last year, buddy? Kevin Keats on the hot seat, about to get fired, and he makes the Final Four. So
that's true. I guess it could happen. You're right. It's a good point.
Shout out to Brooke Wyckoff and her team taking down Miami. Looks like another late bucket for the Noles gets them by 83-82. Michaela Timpson with a layup with 3 seconds left put them ahead by 1, and that was ultimately the winning bucket. So Cavender twins.
No Tania Latson. Don't know why. It looked like she was on the bench in street clothes, so I don't know if she's hurt or sick or whatever, but she didn't play, which is kind of a big deal, right? One of the best players in the country isn't playing. But Mariah Gordon, I think that's how you pronounce it, Mariah. OMG is how they always shorten it.
Nice.
Had 34 points. Had 14 field goals, which is crazy. What are y'all – just lighten up the Cavender twins. Guard someone, ladies. But, yeah, she had 34 points and 7 assists. And Timpson had the game winner with like 3 seconds left, a little turnaround lane. She's a very good player. Gordon is pretty good, obviously, too. And when called upon, she had 34 points, which is incredible. Obviously a career high, but in 7 assists, like I said. But Timpson, she doesn't get as much fanfare as she probably should because of Latson. But that is one. She's also one of the better players in school history. She's not the best like Latson, but she's up there. And she had 22 points and 9 rebounds. In a block, 3 steals. She's a very good defensive player, and they don't have many of those on that team. And then she can go get buckets too, and including one of the. I assume that's one of her first game winners, and a big win too, because they got pretty much humiliated Thursday night. I can't remember who they played. Louisville, maybe. It's the second home game in a row where they just got buried. I think it was NC State the week before. And then they played Louisville on this last Thursday and got obliterated. Just didn't look good at all. It wasn't competitive in the second half. One of those things where it wasn't below double digits. It felt for most of the fourth quarter. And then they come back and play on the road against a decent team. I don't think Miami's special, but a decent team without one of the best players in the country, and they pull off an 83-82 win. So good for them.
Yeah, and you are right. It was Louisville. So well said, Corey. I had to double check you on that. On the way out, any thoughts on the Four Nations face-off? Canada first has to eat the tariffs and the 3-1 loss and 3 scuffles right off the opening whistle out there. So
what's that about? So I was watching it at Corner Pocket with 2 friends that are one friend that's really into hockey, and she was talking about the Chuck brothers, Kachuk brothers, and like it was both of them to start off like what. She's like, what? I was like, what's happening? Because there was a fight at 1 second into the game. Yeah. And I'm like, these teams don't like each other. I'm like, what does that even mean? Because some of these guys are teammates. Like, they're NHL players and they're teammates. I get it's 2 countries against each other, but was something said before the game? Was there something in the warm-ups? And no, apparently they just wanted to fight.
Hey, man.
They wanted to show the Canadian in Canada, right? That stuff's being played in Montreal. So, yeah, USA, baby. USA. You're about to be the 51st state, and we come and we beat you at your sport. How you like that? And I think the fights were pretty even, though it looked like.
Are they? All right. Yeah. First 9 seconds, 3 fights.
3 fights in 9 seconds.
Yeah. All right.
Crazy. Hockey's a goofy sport. God love it.
It's not a goofy sport. It's a fantastic sport.
Well, like 1 second in, they throw their gloves off, and the refs are like, all right, we're just going to do it then. You guys skate around and do it.
I don't watch hockey nearly as much as I used to, but I'm sure there was simmering. The first fight I can understand, but not in the opening match of a tournament like this. There's certain teams that have rivalries where you'll send your goon out there first shift of the game to go ahead and set the tempo. But these are like elite. There's no goons on these teams. These guys are all the highest level players, because you're representing
it's like an NHL All-Star game.
Yeah,
right?
this replaces it, which is a fantastic idea. And Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk was giving the NHL all their flowers over the weekend, where he's like, NBA and the NFL are really struggling to figure out a way, and even kind of Major League Baseball to a certain degree, of like how to spicing up their All-Star weekend, and the NHL just showed you how it's done. It's like, well, I don't know, maybe do like the World Baseball Classic for 2 days during the do like the 4 best, do United States, Japan, Dominican Republic and something else. I don't know.
No, you don't need that for baseball. I think the home run derby is still cool enough that people are going to watch that.
It's too long, man.
Yeah, 100%. But it's still that's going to be fine. It's the NBA one is just a joke.
Yeah.
And this seems awesome. This seems like a great thing to do. Would be like Canada has good players.
Yeah, man.
Serbia has Jokic. I think he's Serbian. So yeah, you could do that instead. I think would be really cool, like just a 4-team tournament where people care, and the winning team gets $1 million each player, like to make them really care. I think that'd be a lot more like having that Olympic basketball energy.
Yeah.
In the middle of the season, as opposed to the nonsense. I haven't watched it, and I'm not going to watch it, but I'm going to go ahead and assume it was a travesty nonsense layup line on Sunday night when the NBA All-Star game was played. That it's like a layup line. You're like watching a dunk contest, but oh great, this is fun.
Don't they have like 4 teams now or something? It's no longer East
Oh
versus,
yeah,
it's like
I guess, but let's see how it's done.
Team Barkley, Chuck's Global Stars versus Kenny Young Stars, Candace's Rising Stars versus Shaq's OG. So maybe they figured out something a little bit more entertaining.
You think they're going to play hard though? You think there's going to be any fights right at the tip-off? Like LeBron and Jokic just drop gloves and start circling each other?
We can see. Let us know what happened, everybody, because it happened after we did the show. All right, we're done. We'll be talking to football players tomorrow, so we'll do a show probably after that, and then we'll do another mailbag.
Maybe a show. Remember, I'm in Biloxi, so it might be a Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay.
A Thursday, Friday week.
Okay.
So I can go win a lot of money in Biloxi because that's usually what I do.
All right. Check out Warchant TV from 1 to 4 o'clock. Jeff Cameron Show? ? And then everything else coming at you per usual over on warchant.com, the ultimate Seminoles sports stars throughout the week. Recruiting stuff as well. Go check it out. Michael Langston, Matt Lassere got you covered. He's Corey Maslon. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.